So you went after the high holidays, shortly after. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's let folks.
What Judaism says about this trend stuff.
I was going to look at, I was going to do a little research on that. And then I have a friend of mine who did, good morning, who did a lot of research on it and presented a class on it.
Really? Oh, I don't know.
And I'm going to see if I can get those sources because he really did a deep dive into the research. Yeah. All right, we're going to let the folks in on the Zoom. That way we'll get everybody together. Good morning to our Zoom crew. Who do we got? All right, it's great to see everybody joining us. Dr. Maxie, welcome. Merle, welcome. Fran, welcome. Andrea, welcome. Ellen, welcome. It's great to see you guys. All right, we're going to get started in just a moment. The breakfast here is so good, right? We have French toast this morning. It's like French toast casserole. Did you see that? Brought it out. It keeps, yeah. Go grab some. Yeah. So whatever, everyone's grabbing breakfast. We're going to get started in a minute. If at any point you want breakfast, just put Zoom on your phone, jump into the car, drive over, grab. You can even head back to the car. Don't worry, no one's going to know. All right, we're going to welcome some more folks. Mariana is joining us. Let's see, who else is this? Hey, Mariana. Good to see you. Boker Tov, good morning. Good morning. All right. Hey, good to see you, Joy. Welcome. Quite the breakfast this morning. We don't play around. This is what happens when Ellie Brofman, the caterer of EB Catering, when he lends a hand and makes breakfast for us, we get a deluxe gourmet situation. Okay. So we're just going to wait another minute or two. Our folks come in and we are going to get started momentarily. Hope everyone's week is off to a good start. A lot of books around me today. I don't know if you noticed. Got one, got two, we got three. If it's a triple book day, you know it's gonna be a discussion. You know it's gonna be a discussion. Good morning. We're upping our game with this breakfast buffet. The real deal. All right. I think we can get started. I'm gonna get my recorder going. We'll do a soft start as we kind of wait for some folks to come in, but I think it's time. I think it is time. Okay, and just as a quick note, before we get started, if you ever want to listen to classes, because either it was so good you want to hear it again, or you missed it and you want to catch it, our brand new podcast is called Torah Unraveled. Torah Unraveled, and you can find all the classes. In fact, all the old classes we're bringing over every day. We're dropping more from the archives onto the new platform. Torah Unraveled. You can find all of the stuff, more than you can handle. Trust me. As far as learning, the audio is on SoundCloud, which is soundcloud.com/the Torah Center ATL. Everything there is organized by playlist. On the podcast, it's kind of just like latest, so it's a little bit harder to navigate, but nonetheless, everything is up there. We're also starting to populate our new YouTube channel, youtube.com, and now they have a new thing. You go youtube.com and put the @ symbol, like the little @ the A with the circle, and it's the Torah Center ATL. So subscribe and listen and watch, etc. You got a lot of Torah up there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Shavua Tov, and welcome to Kabbalah Cafe. It is great to have you here this morning. So we have a lot to talk about. The theme today is seeing God. So it's a heavy topic in a good way, and I'm very excited to delve into this with you. I want to begin with probably the most famous question that is asked in mystical texts. Literally, like the most famous question when you study Kabbalah or Hasidic philosophy, the most popular question
What is God?
is this. The question is, why are we here? Why did God create us? And specifically, why did God take a soul that is so beautiful and pristine and so holy and so godly? Why did God take that soul and, I'm going to over dramatize it for a moment, banish it to a cold and dark place, this world, into a hostile and antagonistic body, in the sense that it's very materialistic? It's the opposite of the soul. Why is the soul banished to a space that is so antagonistic to its own natural desires? So, in short, the question that's asked is, why are we here? Now, this question is not exclusive to Jewish mystical texts, right? This question is found in every philosophy and in every civilization. Good morning, good morning. The question is asked, by the way, the breakfast buffet this morning is off the hook. So if you want, yeah. So the question is asked all over the place. Why are we here? By the way, the fact that human beings keep on asking the question, why are we here, means that on some level, we know that we don't belong here. If after thousands of years we're still here, you would think we would stop asking the question, why are we here? Are you with me on the premise? In other words, if all we know is here, so then why are we asking, why are we here? Where else do you want to be? Where else do you know? Why are we asking this question? Why are we here? Because we're here. The fact that we ask the question indicates that deep down we know that we don't belong here, right? The premise of the question, why are we here? That's founded upon the resonance. I feel like there's a French way of saying that. Resonance. Is it? Did I get that? What? That was such a lucky guess, right? Right. There's like a resonance in the fact that we don't belong here, right? And because we're identifying with our soul, and our soul doesn't belong here. The body belongs here. The body is a piece of the earth. Where else does the body belong? Where the body belongs on a different planet. By the way, did you hear about this? It's amazing space exploration. They just had the first wedding on Pluto. Did you hear about this?
No.
Totally.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm just, one second. The first wedding on Pluto. So one of the guests came back and they asked him, good morning, Norm, we're talking about the first wedding on Pluto. So they asked one of the guests, how was it? How was the wedding? He says, it was nice. The band was decent. The food was okay. The couple was happy. But you know what? There was no environment. There's no, sorry, oh, I messed it up. There was no atmosphere. I can't believe I messed it up. I was so close to nailing that joke. There was no atmosphere. Oh, man. Second chances in life would be very, very desired right now to get that joke right. Back to the story. So here's the point. The point is that we only know this world, right? I'm saying on a body level, all we know is this reality. And yet we ask the question, why are we here? As if we should be somewhere else. Where else do you want to be? This is all we know. The question is founded on a simple truth. And the simple truth is that deep down we know that we don't belong here because we're identifying with our soul. And our soul is a piece of heaven. And so when it comes to a piece of heaven, we can ask the question, and it's a legitimate question now. We can ask the question, why are we here? This doesn't make any sense. Why in the world are we here? We don't belong here. We don't belong here. It's kind of like in classes that I've given on anti-Semitism. We've explained that the core of anti-Semitism, it's a complicated dynamic, but one of the catalysts of anti-Semitism is the sense that the Jew doesn't belong here.
You want me to put it in there or not?
Like the Jew doesn't belong here. Like, why are you here? Right? Different. But there's different rules, these different set code for life, different purpose and different meaning. It's like, we're all here doing our thing. And then there's the Jew, right? Trying to introduce meaning and purpose, Torah and godliness. It's like, come on, get out of here. Like, what are you doing? And so it's kind of like when something doesn't fit, it seems a little bit unusual. So in this case, we're talking about in the context of the soul. When it comes to the soul, there's a legitimate question to be asked, which is, why is the soul here? And in fact, as we've been exploring over the last several sessions, this is a question that the sages of Pirkei Avot, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest Jewish works ever penned, Pirkei Avot, 6 chapters, all about ethics and personal growth and just a framework of philosophy for life. Pirkei Avot, it says, Al karchach ata chai. Life is against our will, which means the soul doesn't want to be here because it doesn't belong here. Souls belong in heaven. Bodies belong on earth, but souls belong in heaven. So why are we here? Why are we here? You're going to say, well, we're here because the body is from the earth. Okay. But why is the soul here? So, as I said before, this question is asked in every civilization, every philosophy, and it's also discussed in Kabbalah and Hasidic philosophy. And I want to share with you a few general perspectives. And hopefully the idea today is to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Okay. If it gets too complicated, let me know. But let's unfold it. I think we should be okay with this. So number one, there are answers that focus on the soul. In other words, why is the soul here? Or why are we here? Why is the soul here? Why was the soul sent down into this earth, into this planet, into this environment? Why? For the soul's sake. Category 1 is the soul. How could this benefit the soul? You kidding me? The soul is going to benefit from coming down here? The answer is yes, according to this school of thought, because the soul above loves God, but it's untested. The love is untested. Why? Because who else are you going to love? In heaven, what are your options? Right? It's like, imagine The Bachelor, right? The reality show, The Bachelor. And that's it. There's 2 people. I mean, like 1 and 1. Who are you going to give the rose to? There you go. You got 1 person. It's not that complicated. I guess there's always the dramatic option of, putting the rose in that bonfire that's next to the thing. Like, I choose no one. And then everyone talks about it for a few days. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been appraised of what's going on in The Bachelor. But the point is like this. One school of thought says that the soul comes down below for the sake of the soul. Why? Because in heaven, the soul loves God, but it's untested love. Who else are you going to love? There's no one else there. When the soul comes down below, and now the soul could love God, or it could love money, power, fame, right? It could love influence, maybe the same as power, a little bit different. It could love chocolate, coffee, cars, comedians in cars drinking coffee. That was a Jerry Seinfeld thing for a while. It could love all sorts of things. And now the soul, the body, the person still chooses God. Oh, that's the soul flexing its muscles. So that's one angle on this. In other words, why does the soul come below? To test its metal, right? To test its metal, to see how strong it is in its love, dedication, etc., devotion for God. You love God? Let's put that to the test. It's kind of quite the buffet, Norm, right? We're not messing around over here. Nah, you only missed the bad jokes. It's good. Yeah. So one answer says it's for the soul's sake. Why? Because the soul above is untested. How do we know how strong the soul is? But when you put the soul down here, and it's so it's so distracting and whatever, and the soul still is able to exercise her love for God. Oh, now you know the soul is strong. Now you can test. Now you can see that the soul is truly dedicated and devoted, and now the soul is fully flexing her muscles. Neshama. The reason I'm saying her is because neshama, soul, is a feminine word. It's a feminine energy. So that's one angle on this. It's kind of like why you it's like why you test anyone, but you just want to see how well you know it, how deep it is, right? You test a child in school on their work, and you want to know, like, okay, so how well do you know this? We just spent like a month studying this. How well do you know it? The purpose is not to trip up the child. The purpose is not to drive them crazy or antagonize. The purpose is not, there's nothing negative here. It's simply to see how well you know it. In a similar vein, we would say the soul is sent below to see to what degree do you love God? Will you be able to express the love, to impose the love, the right word is, but to share the love even with a body. So that's one angle that's typically shared. By the way, along those lines, we would say the following. Good morning. Along those lines, we would say that when the soul comes below and is able to exercise and express her love for God, even in this materialistic realm, what happens at that point is, not only is the soul tested and it's proven, her love is proven, but there's a light that's shining. The soul's light that shines on earth is much brighter than the soul's light that shines in heaven. And this gets to the secret that's expressed in the mystical statement, Yisron ha'ar min ha'choshech. This is a phrase from Kabbalah. It says, there's greater light that emerges from darkness. And there are many different ways to understand this, and we'll go through a few today. But one way to understand this is, you notice the light more when it's shining in a space of darkness. So for example, walk outside on a bright sunny day with your trusty flashlight. When I was a kid, I think, maybe I'm wrong, they had just released the mag light. Remember the mag light? That like that black metal, like that heavy flashlight. And when I went to camp, I'm like, I gotta have a mag light. Why? I don't know, but my suitcase was overweight. It was like a whole, I'm kidding. But like, it's like this heavy flashlight that's very impractical. Now they have LEDs. It's like, super plasticky. It's great. It's bright. It gets the job done. But imagine you walk outside in a bright sunny day and you turn on your flashlight. You can't even see the light. You don't even notice the light. It doesn't do anything. But take that same flashlight, take that same light source and shine it in the night. Oh, now you see it shining. In a similar vein, souls in heaven, how bright are they? How well do you notice their brightness? You don't. Souls in heaven, right? Bright points of light in a bright space. You don't see it. It's all light. It's all bright. Light bright. Remember that game? Remember that toy? Light bright. Was that a thing?
Oh, yeah.
It was a thing.
I have
The
one.
different color bags. All this stuff is coming back.
Okay.
All this stuff is coming back. It's incredible. Okay, so you don't notice the light in a bright space, but you know where you do notice it? You notice a soul when it comes below, and now it's doing great things. Now it's bringing meaning and purpose into the world. Now it's shining up another person. When I say shining, I mean it's brightening someone else's life. Now you see the power of the soul. You see the power of the soul when it's below, precisely when it's below. So all of these angles, and they're very complementary, speak to the purpose of life being about the soul. Why is the soul sent below? To test its love and devotion, to kind of bring out its deepest powers, and to flex its light on earth in a space where now you can see the light of the soul. Great. That's one angle. Then there's another angle. I'm not going to say there's different schools of thought, because really in all the mystical texts, I can't say all, but many mystical texts, both angles are brought. So it's not really different schools of thought, but just different angles on the question or on the answer. So then the second angle is it's not about the reason the soul comes down to this earth, the reason why we exist, the reason why life is not about the soul. It's about the body, or it's about the world. In other words, the soul doesn't come down here for its own sake, for its own purpose, for its own satisfaction, for its own growth, even if that happens. In other words, the first school of thought says, and I'll just give you another classic phrase, Yerida Litzorech Aliyah. So the Yerida, good. Say it again.
You go down in order to.
Good. Toba, excellent. You go down, Yerida means you go down, Litzorech Aliyah, in order to go up. So sometimes, and this is true, sometimes you have to go down in order to go up. So we say the soul, if it really wants to elevate, if it really wants to like pull out its deepest powers, its deepest energies, you have to be put in a place of a test to really rise up to the challenge. So the Yerida, the descent of the soul, is L'tzorech Aliyah, is for a greater ascent. That's one way of looking at it. That's one perspective, and that's true. And we know this, no pain, no gain. It's true. And we know that if you want to, like a slingshot or rubber band, right? You got to pull it back in order to go forward. And we know that if you are I'm going to make up a word here. Hurdleist. That's not hurdler. Someone who hurdles. A hurdler. Hurdleist. Who says that? Hurdleister. Right. So someone who hurdles, if that's what you do and you want to jump over something, well, I mean, I guess you could theoretically jump from a standing position, but put the bar higher and you can't anymore. And the only way to do that is if you go backwards. And there's, whoa, why are you going backwards if you want to go there? Oh, actually, maybe better example is the long jump, right? The long jump. You want to see how long you can jump. It's an Olympic thing, right? Not the one with the pole. That's pole vaulting. Am I right here? Yep. That's the thing. They pull, they go backwards, woo, like that. That's that. This is the straight up long jump. This is your seeing how far you land in sand, right? It's a whole soft landing. Yes, some sort of soft landing, and that's it. So what do? You get a running start. And if you're standing right by the area where you jump, you're going to go backwards and then go forwards. That's the way it is. Up. Today is playoffs in football. You're kicking a field goal to win the game, right? San Francisco, Philadelphia. It's going to come down to a field goal at the end. I'm not predicting this. I'm just saying maybe it will, maybe it won't. Imagine, 45-yard field goal. What do? The kicker's going to stand right by the ball and then kick. It's not going to go anywhere. You got to go back to get a running start. That's the way it is in life. So you're saying, well, 1 second. You want to kick it that way? You want to kick it forward? So why are you going backwards? You say, Chacham, wise one. The reason you go back is because you need, sometimes the way physics works is you have to go back to get the momentum to go forward. You have to pull back to go forward. They say the great wisdom of the one who created the bow and arrow is that, imagine a poisonous arrow, right? Old school poison arrow, right? Not just like for we're going to go axe throwing and arrow shooting, but like war, real deal, right? You take the poison arrow and you pull it closer to your heart before letting it go. That's the chap. That's the chiddush. That's the novelty. That's how wild it is. That you're going back to go forward. But that's how life works. So the soul has to come down to really go up. It's like the great slingshot of life. The soul comes down and it goes down and down and down into this world. Why? To go up. But that's all the first school of thought. We already started the second and went back to the first, just to contrast it. Because the second school of thought says, yes, it's going to be good for the soul. Yes, the soul will be tested. Yes, the soul will be, its deepest powers will be brought out. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, it will rise higher than ever before. All of that is true, but that's not why it's here. Those are outcomes. Those are results of its journey on earth, of its experience in life, in this life, or in this so-called life. No, I'm kidding. It's actually life, right? But that's not the reason for it. There's two different things. This could happen, but that might not be why it's what the design. In other words, there could be what am I looking for? What word? I don't know if it's unintended benefit, but there could be another benefit, but that's not necessarily why it's, according to this school of thought, the reason why the soul is here is not for itself. Even though it's going to benefit the soul, it's not for the soul, it's for the body. Here you have a body that is a clod of earth, right? Unfeeling, unmoved, uninspired. And the soul can bring it to life. I don't mean physical animation. I'm listening to a podcast now about freezing heads. You know, like something like that. Yeah. Yeah, the head freezing stuff.
That's fascinating.
It's fascinating. It's wild. It's wild. I don't necessarily recommend it. I'm just saying, I'm listening to this. It's interesting. The belief is that at some point in time, medicine is going to get advanced and we'll be able to, reanimate. So now they use the word animation. So now when the animation stops, I'm picturing like Disney. Although speaking of, no, but that's an urban legend, by the way. I don't think Walt Disney's head is frozen, even though everyone believes that it is. Anyway, but the idea is that when the animation of life stops, if you freeze it and stop it, then there's a chance, at least there's a chance maybe later. By the way, this is not a Jewish thing, not recommending it. We don't. Anyway. Yeah, freezing eggs. Yeah. Now it's a big thing also. Freezing sperm. In Israel, this is a big thing. Yeah. So it's like it's very, there's a lot of implications of this. But the reason why I say this, I have to remind myself the reason why I say this. Oh, the reason why I say this is the soul. When we say the soul is here to benefit the body, I don't only mean that the soul is going to animate the body. Look, the body is not moving. And now with the soul, it's moving. I mean, more than that, it's inspiring the body. Now the body is inspired. Now the body is invigorated. The body is uplifted. And who did that? The soul. If you can take a body and inspire a body, not only are you strong, look how strong the soul is, it can inspire the body, but now the body is inspired. There's a phrase, good morning, welcome. There's a phrase that is often quoted in Hasidic mystical texts, that the purpose of why God created the world is because God wanted a home in this physical space. And it doesn't only mean in the earth, but God wants a home, a space, a comfortable space in the body as well. In other words, God wants the body, not just the soul. The soul already loves God. God wants the body to love God. And who impresses the love of God upon the body? That's the soul. That's the great partnership of life, is to get excited about doing a mitzvah, even from a bodily level. In other words, that I shouldn't just do a mitzvah because God said so, my soul wants to do that, but because it's enjoyable. Why do you think we have this buffet here? To make Torah enjoyable on every level. It shouldn't just be a soul experience. I'm actually not kidding. The Alter Rebbe once gave a parable. The founder of Chabad once gave a parable, an illustration of why it is that on Shabbat and Jewish holidays, why is food such an important thing? It's in the code of Jewish law. This is not just something that's evolved as a custom. The code of Jewish law says that on Shabbat, it says one of the obligations of Shabbat is oneg Shabbat, to enjoy Shabbat. And how do we enjoy Shabbat? With good food. Basar v'dagim, right? Meat and fish and wine, etc. Of course, if your diet notwithstanding, etc., and preference. But the point is a good meal, an elevated level of meal. This is not just something that is evolved that we do, but it's something that's part of the code of Jewish law to do. It's an obligation, essentially. Enjoy yourself. You have to enjoy yourself. Alter Rebbe gave an example, gave a parable. He said one time there was a king who had an only son. By the way, lots of Hasidic parables are about kings and princes. I don't know if you noticed that. They lived the times of a monarchy, and this was a very good, everyone was thinking about this stuff. Today we would talk about something about TikTok and an influencer who had, I don't know, kidding. So there was a king and his only son, the prince. And it was known, the king knew that at some point, he's getting older, the prince is getting older also. At some point, the mantle of sovereignty is going to pass from him to his son. This is not where there were two sons, because then it gets very complicated. Do you know about this? When there's two boys vying for the throne, it can get a little complicated, relationships-wise. I'm joking. Right? You guys with? Hello. Spare, right? You guys with me? Harry? All right, back to the story. Just cultural reference here. Trying. So anyway, so you have a king and a prince. And the king wants the prince.
Or queen.
Yeah, but yes. But this is the way that he told it. There was a king and his only son. And here's the thing. He wanted his son to understand the kingdom, to understand the people, to be a good king. Because he felt with his son growing up in the palace, with all the exposure that he's had to like normal life, he's never lived amongst the people. So if you've never lived amongst the people, you don't know what they struggle with, how they think, right? What their day-to-day life looks like. So you're going to be an out of touch ruler. How can you rule? How can you lead the people if you're so out of touch? If you live in the ivory tower, as it were. So he tells his son, he says, listen up. I'm going to send you away for a year. I'm going to give you a little money, but I'm going to send you away. This is out of love. You didn't do anything wrong. There are other parables where the prince does something wrong and the prince gets sent away. There's many different parables in the Hasidic imagination. But this one is, I love you, and this is going to be for your benefit. It's going to be for the kingdom's benefit. Because if their future king will know how they feel, how they live, it's going to be good for you. It's going to be good for them, good for everybody. So he says to the son, my dear son, I love you. Here's a little bit of money. A little bit of money, no ATM card. No ATM card. There's a little bit of money. Go out into the world, into the kingdom, meet people, get to know what's going on. I'll see you in a year. And he understands it. He understands his mission. It makes a lot of sense. He gets it. It's not easy. It's comfortable. It's comfortable being in the palace, but he understands the reason for this. He understands the value, and he embraces it. Takes the little money, and now he has to get a job. You got to get a job. How long is that money going to last? Gets a job. He's working hard. He's making friends, and he's living the life, and he's getting to know what real life looks like. At first, he says, let them eat cake, and then he realizes, no, that's not how it works. Right? So he eventually gets a sense of what real life feels like, what it looks like. Well, about 3 months in, he gets a letter from his father. Dear son, I love you. I want you to know how important this mission is. I want you to know how happy I am that you've embraced it and that you're dedicated to it. And he just shares the love and encouragement with his son. And his son gets the letter, and he's so overjoyed. And sometimes when you're very, very happy, you feel like you have to share it with someone else. You ever have that experience where like something is so amazing, you can't hold it to yourself, hold it within? You got to share it, right? That's why God created Twitter.
Created what?
Twitter.
Twitter.
Right? Right? It's so good. It's something so brilliant or so ridiculous, right? So good, you have to share it. So he immediately goes to the bar, the local gathering place, right? The tavern, the pub. He goes to the bar.
That's what my great-grandfather owned, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
He owned a
Beer garden.
Really?
He had a pub, had a bowling, some form of bowling.
Did he have food?
He had what?
Did he have some food?
I don't-
No food. It wasn't a krechme. It wasn't like a bed and breakfast in food place. No, just straight up a tavern.
That's where the big groups are. Beer garden.
Interesting. Look at you. You should sell beer with your cookies.
But what I learned was the reason why they had the Jews be the innkeepers was because that's where they were collecting the tax. They were taxing the liquor and the beer.
Yep.
And they trusted the Jews to do the math.
Right.
Calculations to submit the right amounts to the king.
There you go. Always or not. Yeah, you had to. You kind of had to. Yeah. Anyway, so the son, the prince, is so excited. By the way, no one knows that he's the prince. I probably should have mentioned that, because if everyone knows he's the prince, that's not going to work. This whole thing works when no one knows you're the prince. You're the prince incognito mosquito, right? You're like on the down low, on the DL. It's like no one knows. So he goes to the bar and he wants to celebrate, but you don't want to celebrate by himself. He wants to celebrate with his buddies, with his friends. But he can't tell them that the reason why he wants to celebrate is because he got a letter from his father, the king. That's not going to work. What's he going to say? By the way, guys, he's going to open his shirt with like a P. Prince, thank you. Right? Purple?
Prince.
There you go. There you go. The artist formerly, the child formerly known as Prince, but now just the person. So he's not going to he can't bust that out. So what does he do? Here's what he does. He says to the barkeeper, around on me for everybody, right? On me, around. I've never said this before, so I'm not sure how to say it. On me, around on me, something like that. Okay. And then he says, food for everybody. He starts splurging. And then everybody's drinking, saying l'chaim and eating and celebrating with him and toasting him. Cheers. And so while they're happy with the food and the drink, while they're celebrating because of the eats, he's celebrating because of his connection with his father, which is still strong and still vibrant and still incredible. And the Alter Rebbe says, this is what happens on Shabbos. This is what happens on Yom Tov, on a Jewish holiday. This is what's going on. The soul wants to celebrate. The soul can't celebrate itself by itself. How's the soul going to celebrate? What is it going to do? So the soul says to the body, hey, come here. I got some good food. I got some really good food. I got some good wine. I got some good mashka. You know what mashka is? Mashka? Mashka literally means liquid. But in Hasidic parlance, mashka means only one type of liquid. Huh? Liquor. Yeah. Weißer or Geller, right? White or yellow, right? White or dark, yeah. You have your vodka on one side, your scotch, and
the youngsters have brought in
tequila. I know. I was going to say tequila could go either way. Tequila. I never grew up with tequila. The only thing I knew is, you know what the guys say now. When they want a large cup, they want a tequila Gadola. Tequila Gadola. That's a joke. It's a very, very bad joke. All right. So back to the story. So the Alter Rebbe says that what happens? The soul wants to celebrate. Shabbos. It's a day with the Creator. The soul wants to celebrate. Yom Tov. Right? What's the next Yom Tov coming up? We have Purim. You know why it's called Purim? Purim and other. I've said that, many times. Right? So Purim is coming up. So you want to celebrate with God. So the soul wants to celebrate, but the soul can't celebrate by itself because it's in a partnership with the body. It's like the
I don't know.
It's like that. You think the soul can celebrate on its own?
You've not had feelings, times in your body that your soul would celebrate. Your
soul's on fire. Yeah, but I think what the soul is trying to do is trying to get some more buy-in from the body. Because if the soul goes off and celebrates and we feel that inspiration, but the body is kind of left behind, that at some point the body's going to say, all right, time's up. Come back in. Let's indulge. Let's a little for you, a little for me. Right? We're like, life is a balance. We'll give you a little prayer, a little mitzvah, a little Torah study, but let's go take a walk on my side as well. Let's do that. But here, what we're doing is we're bringing the body into the spiritual experience as well, into the Shabbat experience. And we're saying to the body, yes, you can enjoy, but you're going to enjoy in this context, in this space, in this enjoyable space. So we're going to have friends over and family over and have a 4 or 5 or plus whatever course meal, and it's going to be amazing. We have to bring out the nice plates and the nice cups and the nice glasses, etc. We have to it's going to be gorgeous in the context of Shabbat, Shabbos. That's the way. Yeah.
You can actually store it in different areas of your brain and bring it out more. So you're, in a sense, your mind God in all sorts of different parts of your brain. So, so in a way, I guess God in all the components you can use.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I'm going to repeat that. Tell me your name again. Joan? Joan, first of all, welcome. It's great to see you here. What Joan mentioned is that we learn in different ways. I'm going to try to repeat what you said. We learn in different ways, but when we do something physical or an activity while we're learning, we actually store that experience or information in different parts of the body. So if we're experiencing Shabbat while eating, while sharing stories or laughs around the table, we're actually storing the memory or the experience of Shabbos, not just in an intellectual or more spiritual part of the human being, but in the body itself, in a gastronomical inspirational experience, right? Like a physical experience. Which, by the way, that idea is ultimately where we're going to get to today. The big idea today is seeing God in the physical experience. So this ties in very beautifully to. Thank you for sharing that with where we're headed. Yeah.
Question about the parable. It seemed like the king had a great example of Kabbalah, that he needed to separate from the son for the son's own purpose.
Right.
That was a positive application of separation. Just because I think a lot of people hear Kabbalah and have a negative connotation, but that seemed like a great example of why Kabbalah could be useful.
I'm gonna repeat as well what Matt said. So Matt said that the king sending his son away is a great example of kavura done for a positive purpose. Kavura would mean separation. We typically think of separation in a negative sense, right? Separation and distance and boundaries as being something harsh or something somewhat of a negative connotation. In this case, it's totally out of love for his son, for the kingdom, for the betterment of his son, etc. It's, I love you, I care about you, I care about your future, I care about your success, etc. Therefore, you need to go away, right? Therefore, you're out. No, but in a loving way. So gevura, driven by love, is actually the best gevura. I would say it's the only legitimate form of gevura. Because what else? I'm upset, therefore I'm sending you away. That's not healthy. Right? That's anger. That's negativity. That's rage. I don't know, whatever that is. That's not a positive experience. So getting back to this example, we see over here that the objective of the prince throwing this party is to not just have an experience where the soul exalts. Well, in the analog, in the nimshal, it's that the soul should not just have an experience where it alone exalts with God, but that the body is along for the ride, right? Shabbat, Yom Tif, the body should also be along for the ride. The body should also experience the love and excitement and joy for a mitzvah. So a mitzvah shouldn't just be where the soul is excited to do it and the body is dragged along, but the body should also enjoy it. And as I mentioned before, that's why we have, for example, that's why we have food at classes. Right? It's for the same purpose. It's the idea that it shouldn't just be something that the soul enjoys and the body is kicking and screaming, being schlepped along for the ride. No, it should be good for the body. It should be an enjoyable experience all the way around, a holistically enjoyable experience. So this thought leads us to the following conclusion. To answer the big question that we started with, why are we here? Why did God create us? Why are we here? Why did God take the soul and put it below? So one answer focuses on the soul. It's good for the soul. It strengthens the soul. It steels the soul. It brings out the depth of the soul. Wonderful. But then there's an answer. Then there's an approach that focuses on the body. You know what the soul does when it comes below? The soul can transform the body into a vessel that loves God. And that's powerful. In the Shema, we say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. But the Hebrew word for all your heart, b'chal levavecha, it doesn't say b'chal libcha, which would mean all your heart. B'chal levavecha, 2-letter bets or vets. That means hearts in the plural. Love God with all your hearts. And the Talmud says, this is not even Kabbalah, this is the Talmud. The Talmud says, B'chal levavecha, with all your hearts, plural, B'shnei yitzarecha, with both of your yitzers, both of your drives, your yitzer tov and your yitzer hara. The Talmud spoke about evil, good inclination, evil inclination. Serving God with your loving God with your evil inclination. And the question is, 1 second, what's the Talmud say? You should when the Torah says, and when we read in the Shema twice a day, right? At least twice a day. Torah says, love the Lord your God with all your hearts. It means with both inclinations, your good and your evil inclination. How would my evil inclination ever love God? You know what the answer is? With training. What is the evil inclination about? Self. The evil inclination is about one thing: self, ego, self-preservation, self-magnification. It's about promoting self. Ego. I agree, which is why Hasidic teachings move away from Yetzer Hara, evil inclination, because evil sounds irredeemable. Sounds too far gone. Let's give up. That's why Hasidic philosophy reframes the conversation to the godly soul and the animal soul, or the godly soul and the natural soul. It's not evil. It's not bad. It's just like an animal in the sense that it's about self-preservation. It's not bad. It's just me. It's just self. It's the way it is. Is it bad? Is it evil? No. It's just I.
Well, that's you. Me,
Listen, everyone's got a different animal. It says in Chassidus that some have their animal soul. Some animal souls are like a bull. Some are like a sheep. Some are like a donkey. Different, stubborn. Everyone's got a different animal soul, and it's easy to fix someone else's animal soul and to point out what's wrong with someone else. Question is to fix what's wrong. What's not wrong, but what's challenging for us. But anyway, the point here is that there is a way through education, really essentially self-education, to educate our inner animal, that inner evil inclination, to not be so antagonistic. Basically, we tell ourselves, look, you want happiness, you want success, and you're thinking that this spirituality stuff is a waste of time. 1 second, if you really want all these things, it comes through a balance with the spiritual stuff. Because at the end, we can go through like a lot of thoughts and meditations on this, but the point is, but in respect to the time, so we're not going to do that. The point is, there's a way to slowly educate and really educate through experience also, and bring that side also on board with the spiritual pursuits. Does that make sense? So what this means is that the soul, the beautiful, powerful, godly soul, comes into this world, into our body, and in proximity, in partnership with our animal soul. What's the purpose? To influence, not to flex its own muscles and to shine its light and to show how powerful it is. It's not about itself. It's about the purpose is for it to influence the other. And the other means the body, the animal soul, the world at large. It's about the influence, about the transformation. In other words, what does God want? Does God want souls that are strong, or does God want bodies that shine? Those are the two angles. According to the ultimate reason that's brought in Jewish mysticism, the ultimate reason, or in the way that it's phrased in many Hasidic discourses, the true reason. There are reasons, but then there's the true reason. The truest reason is for the soul's descent into this world is not for the sake of this. It's not about the soul. It's about illuminating the body, or allowing the body to shine. And yes, that happens through the soul's influence. But ultimately, the goal is that the body shine. Why is that the goal? That's what God wanted. God wanted this world to shine. And this world is comprised of human beings and stuff. God wanted this world to shine. And who plays an integral part in that? The soul. So the soul comes down here, but not for itself. Not that it should shine, but that the body should shine. There's two different things. And this really gets back to that sign, like what you mentioned before. It's like when I'm having an experience of a mitzvah and I'm excited about it, is it that my soul is shining so brightly that it's also illuminating the space of my body? Or has it somehow impacted, right, and influenced my body that it itself is shining? Two different experiences, right? One is from the outside, right? One is shining from the outside, and one is shining from the inside. So, regarding the ultimate time, there's the Messianic era. It says, one of the prophecies from Isaiah says, "V'ra'u kol basar ki pi Hashem diber." All flesh will see that the mouth of God is speaking. What does that mean?
What it means, but to go back a step, what's an example of the soul shining? What's an example of the body shining?
The soul shining is where the soul is so excited to do a mitzvah that the body is along for the ride, but the body is not really that excited about it. And so there's a light that's illuminating from this experience, from this mitzvah, but it's not a light that's emanating from the body. It's a light that's emanating from the soul. When the body is on board with the mitzvah, when the body is excited about the mitzvah, then the body itself is shining. I'm going to give other examples soon of the body itself, the body transformation. So I'm going to give examples soon, but the idea is that the light is coming from okay. So this ties back to something I said before. There's a phrase in Kabbalah that says there's a greater light that comes from the darkness. Two ways to understand that. One is that when you have the same flashlight during the day, you don't see it, but when you have it at night, the same flashlight, you notice it. But that's still about the flashlight. The darkness itself is not illuminating. You didn't make the dark sky itself brighter. You just impose the light onto the sky, right? But the other way, that's where the soul is illuminating, and then it's shining in other spaces. But the other way is where the Yisron Aram and Achoshech means that the greatest light is the light that's born from the darkness itself. When the darkness itself shines, not when the darkness is illuminated by an external light, but when the darkness itself shines, that's the greatest light. You're asking, how does darkness shine? Isn't darkness dark? In order to shine, you need an external source shining upon it. The darkness itself actually contains the greatest light. We explored this a few weeks ago in the context of the fact that the yesh hanivra, I'm going to use Kabbalistic terms, is aligned with the yesh hamiti. The yesh hanivra means the eye of existence, the eye of creation, is aligned with the eye of the creator. Everything else in existence knows that it comes from a creator, except for the physical body. The physical human being says, naturally, without the soul, would say, I exist. People, even with a soul, will say, I exist. One of the things that we know about Pharaoh in Jewish scripture is that Pharaoh is of the opinion, he believes, Li Yairi, it's my Nile, Vani Asisini, and I made myself. Pharaoh says, essentially, this is all from classic Jewish literature. Pharaoh says, I am a self-made man. The Nile is mine. Me, I made myself. Even though Pharaoh knew that the Nile rose, when he walked by the Nile, it actually rose, the banks rose. He knew that that was because of a blessing that Jacob had blessed him with. He knew that. And yet, ultimately, he didn't care. He turned his back on the truth, on reality, and he took credit himself. How often do we human beings do that also, right? Where we're blessed with things, and we say, look what I did. Look what I did. How are you here? Look what I did. How did you wake up this morning? You did that? Right? It's all God. Yes, of course, we work with God, but it's a partnership. But the idea, the Pharaoh, is the idea of Leah, and his son. It's my Nile, and I made myself. It's literally the way in Jewish literature, the way Pharaoh is described. I'm a self-made man. I'm a self-made Pharaoh. It's my Nile, and that's it. You know what we call that? Denial. Pharaoh is in denial. He's in denial. Thank you. He's in denial. He thinks he creates himself. So Pharaoh is the example of the physical that doesn't see its own. Oh, So here's the point. So that sense of, look, I made myself, is actually ultimately aligned with God's perspective. And again, I mentioned this a few weeks ago. It's going to be a bit of a repeat, but this idea that God also believes that nothing created God, that there's nothing higher than God. God is a self-made God in a sense. Not that God made himself, but God is. We believe that we are also. Our perspective on reality is actually mirroring perfectly God's perspective. The way I expressed it a few weeks ago is God is an atheist, right? If atheism means that I don't believe there's anything higher than me, then isn't God an atheist? God wouldn't say that there's something higher than God. God would say, no, I'm top of the food chain. You know who else says that? We. And Kabbalah says, you know why we say that?
Because we're in the image of God.
We're in the image of God. And like a mirror. We're not a, if we were a step down from God, right? We would look up and say, oh, that's my source. But a mirror image looks like the same thing. So exactly God's perspective. God says, I am nothing higher than me. Human beings also have a natural inclination to say, I am, there's nothing higher than me. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm saying it's mirroring the divine. But that ego is really ultimately stemming from a high place. In other words, the darkness of that ego really is filled with light. If we only are able to tap into it and understand how it's really coming from a divine source. In other words, if we crack the code and realize, oh, the fact that I have a natural inclination to be self-centered and to feel like I'm in control and I have this and I've got this, the fact that I have the fact that I have that natural perception is only because I am created in the mirror image of God. The moment I understand that, my darkness begins to shine. Because instead of me being filled with low ego, it's filled with divine ego. And now I realize, that exists within me because I'm in the mirror image of God. So now I'm humbled by that fact. So that doesn't take over my life. I'm a self-made person. Now I realize the reason why I feel that sometimes is because I'm in the mirror image of God, but that's all because of God. And now that darkness can shine. The greatest light is in the darkest of spaces. So there's two things. Either the soul can shine in a dark space, or the soul reminds the body of its own light, a light that's greater than the light of the soul. And the body begins to shine. And that's the deepest purpose of why we're here, of why the soul came down below. Not for the sake of the soul, but for the sake of the body. And the soul sees the light inside the body. As we've been saying, the soul can perceive that light because souls can see these things. The soul sees that although it looks like it looks like something with a very crusty exterior. It looks like something very dark, impenetrably dark. The soul sees it inside as a greater light than even it possesses because it recognizes its creator. The body doesn't, which means the body is actually more aligned, as I just said a moment ago, with the vantage point of the creator. The body is actually more aligned, more of a mirror image of God than the soul. And the soul sees that. And so when the soul comes down below, it's not about, oh, look how great I am. I can shine even here below. It's amateur hour. What the soul is really here for? The soul is really here to open up the body and the physical world and allow that light to shine, the light inside the darkness. The greatest light comes from the darkness means not the greatest light is when there's contrast. The greatest light is the light that comes literally from the darkness, because the darkness has a great light inside of it. And this gets to the big idea that I wanted to share today. And then we'll do some lines inside. The big idea that I wanted to share today is this notion of seeing God. Kabbalah says that in heaven, you can't see God. You can see God's light. You can see godliness, right? It's like Jewish. Okay. Right? You can see godliness, but you know what you can't see? God. even with an appointment. You know why? Because God is too bright. God says to Moses, no man can see me. No one can see me and live. It's not possible. But the mystics say, you know where you can see God? You can see God right here on earth. I'm going to share with you something phenomenal. This is from a book called Hayom Yom. Hayom Yom in 1943, 1942, 43. The Rebbe, this is before he became Rebbe, the anniversary of which, by the way, is Tuesday night. Anniversary of the Rebbe becoming officially the Rebbe in 1951. So in 1942, 43, the Rebbe wrote a calendar with a thought for each day. You know, you have lahavdil, like a Far Side calendar. Each day you rip it off with a cartoon, comic strip, right? A cartoon. This is like a thought for each day, a deep thought for each day. So I'll share with you the thought.
This would be good to have one of those.
Yes,
I don't know.
I agree. I don't know why no one's on that. Why is maybe because they don't want you to rip it off and like put it, but they could have like a flip calendar.
We have it in the Chayim.
It is in the Chayenu. Did you see this was Chayenu's bookmark?
No.
From last the bookmark. You didn't have a bookmark? It has my picture on it. That bookmark. Yeah. I didn't put it in there. This is no, the Chayenu did. Chayenu did. We'll talk after. Anyway, so 7 Tishrei. 7 Tishrei. Okay, I'm gonna read this. Oh, okay. So very quickly. The Rebbe writes here that that the word teshuva is comprised of 5 letters: Taf, Shin, Vav, Vet, Hey, teshuva, and each letter. Tshuva means like repentance, return, right, reorientation, and each letter starts a verse that is a verse that captures the essence of repentance. So, for example, the Taf of the Tshuva, the T, is Tamim Tia Im Hashem Lekecha, be sincere with Hashem. So, number 1, sincerity. The second one is Shaviti Hashem Lenegdi Samid. I've set God before me always, realizing that Hashem is always with us. So, number 1 is sincerity. Number 2 is divine presence, always in front of us. The Vav is V'yahavta l'reacha kamocha, love your fellow as yourself. These are like classic. The fourth one is called in all your ways know him. So I'm going to read this one. An explanation of the fourth method of teshuva, which is in the vet. So vet is b'chol, in all your ways know him. A person who sets his heart and mind to observe all that happens to him and around him will perceive godliness tangibly in evidence. In other words, if you look for the divine signs, the divine winks, the divine hand in your life, you will find evidence of a higher force guiding your life and everything around you. As the Mittler Rebbe, the second Chabad Rebbe, pointed out, business people have an advantage over secluded scholars in that the former, the business person, can witness actual manifestations of godliness. This form of divine of the service of teshuva comes from one perceiving hashgacha pratit, particular divine providence. And I'm going to explain what that means. He basically says that the scholar who's studying about God in the yeshiva all day is theoretically knowing God, is knowing God from the books, studying about God. But the business person who's out in the world, who's seeing things happen, seeing real life play out, that person sees God in real life. If they have the right lens on, but they can see God right in front of them. So you can learn, you can know God in the books, and that God is a theoretical God. That's like, God exists, because I learned about it. Or you can be invested in the world and see God in essence, in a sense, in the flesh. Not that God has flesh, but see God as manifest in this world, because what is running this world other than the hand of God? But when you're outside the world, when you're secluded, right? When you're in the base medrash, in the study hall, and you're all you're doing is looking at a book, that's all you have, a book God. But when you're in the world and you see how God is running the world, then you see God tangibly. In the language of Hasidus, it's Re'iyas, Elokus, B'muchash. It's seeing God tangibly. So Moses asked God, show me your glory. And God says, you can't handle my glory. I'm just paraphrasing, right? Right? Show me your glory. You can't handle my glory. No one can and live. And Chassidus comes along and says, actually, there is a way. Not by looking at the light, but by looking at the darkness. Not by looking in those bright spaces, but by looking at the everyday goings on of this world. Just look around and you'll see God. And you'll see God not in theory, but in practice. You'll see God not in the books, but in real life. You'll see God manifest, literally manifest. And that's something, just to round out this idea, that the soul in heaven can't see. The soul sees light, but the greater the light, the more it's blinded. And at some point it can't see anymore and it taps out. Seraphim are angels that burn themselves out of existence because it gets too bright and they're out.
At least here we get to see God.
Yes.
So you're telling me I die if I go to heaven.
Hold on. 1 second. First of all, who's talking about death? Second of all, yes, according to this understanding, the greatest experience, the greatest divine experience is right here. Souls, angels can't see God, but we can see God. And you know why? It's so dark, you can look. When it's bright, you can't look at the brightness. But God is manifest. Listen to this. God is not only manifest in the bright places, God is also manifest in the dark places. A God that's only found in light is a very limited God. God is not just in heaven. In Kabbalah, in Zohar, it says, Ein Sof, the infinite, is Lamaila Maila. Ad Ein Ketz is the highest of the high. Lamata Mata Ad Ein Tachlis. And the lowest, in the lowest of the low spaces. God's pure essence is right here. So you want to look up, it's going to be too bright. Look right here. It's dark anyway, you can look. And when you look, you'll see God. And the soul knows that. And the soul knows that the experience of sight here is tangible, something that it can never see. And that's why the soul, even though by its own nature it would gravitate to heaven, the soul wants to come below to get a glimpse of what the body can glimpse. And that's why the soul comes down, Norm. Yes.
God hides his face from us by letting us believe we're making the decision. And when he said that, I flashed my entire life, all 2 or 3 years. That was really an entire view of my life in 1 second.
I want to repeat that. The line is that inspired Norm. The line is that God, say it one more time, God
hides his face from us by letting us believe that we're making.
God hides his face from us by allowing us to believe that we're making the decisions. And when we're able to see through that facade, when we're able to see the truth that God is running the show, then when you look at the show, all you see is God. And you don't see God in theory in the books. You see God in action, God in movement, God in fluid motion, God in living color. How many 90s shows can I mention? Should be a drinking contest.
But when you get into your 60s, your 6th decade, you tend to misplace things a lot.
Yes.
Find things. You set it down. You don't know where it is. I've gotten into the habit, and we will find it eventually, but I've gotten into the habit when I can't find my phone and I'm struggling and I'm looking all over and I finally find my phone. Thank you, Richard. When I find something that's missing, whether it's or there's something insignificant. Thank you, Hashem.
Thank you, Hashem. Yep.
What are the bad decisions?
Sorry, what?
What are the bad decisions that you made?
Our own bad decisions?
Yeah.
Is God guiding those as well? That's a complicated question. The short answer is yes and no. It depends. Does God guide our bad decisions? Is God flowing? Can we find God in our bad decisions? The real answer, the ultimate answer is 100%. The sign for that is in the Torah, when it talks about sarat, right, the biblical form of it was called leprosy, but it's not really leprosy, sarat of homes, it says that when it goes on the homes, you have to remove the bricks, move the stones of the home. It says that was a blessing because they removed the stones, and inside the stones, there were treasures left by the original inhabitants of the land of Israel. And so what's interesting is that you only needed to remove the stones because they had sarat, and sarat is because you spoke negatively with someone else, which was a bad decision. So here we have a situation where you made a mistake, you did something wrong, and because of that, you gained, you got rich, right? Sin and get wealthy. Sounds like a new book, bestseller. 5 sins to success. What? Right? But only one is important. Lashon hara. So it's like, what? Because I messed up, I got wealthy? Like, who's running this show here? And what's the point? The point is, there is light and treasure even in our mistakes. That's the point. It's a metaphorical point, right? There's light even in those dark spaces, self-imposed, not just the ones that God puts in front of us, the challenge that God puts in front of us, but even the extra stumbling blocks that we put in front of ourselves. Like, God makes it hard enough, and we're like, you know what? Let me top that by messing up and doing that. And God says, you can't, don't worry. I got this also. You think you're stronger? I'm stronger. There's light in there also. But I did that. God's like, I'll explain that to you one day, but don't worry. There's light in there also. That's the point. The point is there's light in every space. And when we see God flowing through this space, we're not just learning about God. It's not just the soul getting a glimpse of divine light. It's we're seeing God. What Moses asked for, we can see. This is the secret of Hashgacha Pratis, divine providence, seeing God in every space. Yeah. Hashgacha Pratis. That means specific divine providence. Not just that God generally is aware of what's going on or generally cares about the world, but that God is really, literally involved in everything that happens, which means that if I'm attentive to the world, not if I'm attentive to the books, if I'm attentive to the world around me, I see God. If I'm attentive to the blade of grass, to the tree, I'm attentive to everything in front of me. The stuff, not the spirit, not the light stuff, the stuff, but I can see the divine in that. That's it. Crack the code. I see God in the flesh, not in God's flesh, but in the flesh of materialism, in the flesh of physicality. I see God in that space.
That's interesting because the latest psychological spin now is pretty much that they leave out God. Be attentive, be aware, be conscious.
Be present.
Be present. Everything is.
It's all about setting intentions, right? And being present. And that's so Kabbalah. But the one thing is like this. It's like, oh, wait a second. What I'm being attentive to is not just the body of the thing, but the soul of the thing, i.e. the fact that God is flowing through.
Yeah, they don't go that far.
Yeah, it's fine. They'll get there one day. It's fine. It's all good. All right. Yes.
What about the old thinking that Hashem was testing us, testing body and soul, testing our relationship, our love for Hashem?
Right.
And you put all this in the perspective of the body and the soul, sort of fighting it out.
Right.
Hashem is out of the picture today.
So you're saying that the struggle, the pitting of the two.
As a child, I remember
right.
Saying, God's testing you.
Right. So there's definitely one angle on that it's a test, and we'll see how strong the soul is to overcome the body. But the deeper idea is that the body is not the enemy. The body is just another form of godliness that you can't tell on the outside. You don't see it right away. But if you know how to look, you realize, oh, wait a second, this too is divine. Because God is not just above, God is also below. And God flows through everything. So everything is divine. The body is no less divine than the soul. We typically think, oh, the soul is holy, the body is lowly. Right? Holy versus lowly. Cage match. Top of the cage match. Right? Like that's how we think. Remember those top of the cage matches? Wow. All right, it's for another time. For another time in the history. All right, so yeah, that's how he thinks. That's how we think, not thinks. Holy versus lowly. And what Kabbalah says is the lowly is also holy, maybe even more holy than what looks holy. It's just how you approach it. It's how you look at it. But when you look at it with that perspective, you can see God everywhere. And so in summation, and we're going to get to the end, we're not going to read inside today because we're past the time, but very quickly in summation, we spoke today about the purpose of life and why the soul was sent below. Two schools of thought. One is that the soul is below, it was sent below for its own sake. Another school of thought is that the soul is sent below for the body's sake. In other words, to reveal the light that's inside the body, because the body struggles to do so on its own. It needs a little bit of outside perspective for that to be realized. And from this vantage point, life is really about seeing the divine everywhere in the lowest of spaces as well. And in that context, with that type of framing, we can literally see God. When we look at the world and we see how the divine is, or how God is orchestrating everything, we see the soul in the physical things that are going on. We see God in the physical, in the material, in our own bodies, in our own goings on, in our own work, in everything that we do, in the trees outside, in the stuff that we eat, in everything that goes on around us. We can find God. So that is why ultimately the soul is so excited to come below. Not for its own sake, but to discover a light that it cannot achieve on its own. The soul knows where that light is, the greatest light. I used the example, I think last week, I always do this. I always hold my hands like this. Metal detector. I don't know why. I've never held a metal detector, but if I did, I would hold it like that. Right? Oh, is it like that? You don't hold it like this?
No.
Who does this? A scooter. What is this? A scooter.
Lawnmower.
A lawnmower. No wonder I haven't found anything. I've been literally mowing the sand. Unbelievable. No, that's why. Right. This is what it means, the difference between seeing God in real life or seeing God in the books. There's me seeing, like conceptualizing, like what a metal detector, how you would hold it, as opposed to actually holding it. You literally hold the metal detector with one hand? Is this true? Wow. All right. So I feel like I've been living a lie all these years. What do you do now? Next thing you're gonna tell me the tooth fairy isn't real.
No.
And so you're holding the metal detector and you sense something powerful. The soul senses the greatest light coming from the darkest of spaces, and it can't believe it. The soul's in heaven and it says, what is that light? Where is that light coming from? How is that possible? Down, it's dark. Where's that light? So the soul comes below to uncover that light. Because in the end, the greatest light comes from darkness. Thank you very much for joining me this morning for Kabbalah Cafe. Same bad time, same bad channel next week. We're going to do some text inside. That's a guarantee. Yes. Complimentary. The reason why I divide into two schools of thought for the soul, for the body, is just for a little bit of clarity it's just to create a little bit of distinction, but really they're all brought in the same text. Yeah, it's the same core idea, but one is focusing more on the soul's light. One is focusing more on the body's inherent light. It's really what's the focus? They're both right. They're both true. They both happen at the same time. They both need to happen. Because if the soul doesn't shine, you're never going to find the light inside the body. And if the body is, I don't have the other way in my head, whatever. But yeah, both need to happen and both do happen. But it's just like, which one are we focusing on? It's great to see you. This is your first time for the Kabbalah class?
Yeah, I came for the whole day. I'm traveling and I was like,
Very cool. All right. So you're not from here usually?
no.
Well, we're glad to have you here. Take care. Nice to meet you. Oh, yeah, literally. That's one hand. Oh my gosh.
There's a grip on it to put your arm in it.
Oh, I've been pretending to hold the metal
What-
detectors all my life.
The metal one.
I don't even, oh, yeah, I don't know.
What are you picking it up when you find it?
I don't know. I wasn't planning on actually
You're not
finding
using
anything.
the floor, you're not using a wall.
Oh, that is true, right? I was just like buffing the sand.
Well, good metal find.
Do. I don't know. Yeah,
Decision God's in on.
yes.
Did you say that he's leading with the bad decision, so eventually you'll find.
You could say that, but that's a little borderline. It's a little borderline. By the way, I want to make a quick announcement. I meant to do this before. Next Monday, not tomorrow night, but next Monday night, we're starting a new 5-part series with Rabbi Tzvi Freeman, who is an incredible scholar, creative Hasidic scholar. He is a teacher, an author, is incredible. Daily Wisdom, Chabad, he's the chief editor of Chabad.org. An insider's guide to the universe starting next Monday night in person on Zoom. It's going to be an incredible experience. He's teaching a mystical text, a Kabbalistic text authored by Elijah the prophet. It's one of the oldest mystical texts we have, called Patach Elio. It's pretty cool. It's the one that talks about the Sfirot, right, left, center. It's very cool. All right.
What
I think
is
that's, yeah.
the new I guess the current podcast.
So the newest podcast is called Torah Unraveled, but the SoundCloud page is soundcloud.com/the Torah Center ATL. We got all the words in there. Huh?
Do you know if it's also?
Yeah,
Oh,
but look up Torah Unraveled. It's on Spotify. Absolutely. The only thing is on SoundCloud, it's good because I divided, because we uploaded into playlists, but on the RSS feed, because it's an RSS feed that gets pushed to the podcast, it just goes by last one up, just populates it. So we're pulling a lot of from the old platform, pulling it all to the new platform. So it's getting a little messy. It's getting a little populated. I don't think there's a way to organize it. No, well, I would hope that there is. YouTube is organized. Yeah. There's YouTube. But SoundCloud's also organized because you can organize it by, you can search. But
Already, actually, that's right. I'm just gonna search Spotify just for the name.
yeah, Torah Unraveled, you'll find it. Thank you. As always.
Do for the rest of your Yom Rishon B'Shabbos.
The rest of my day, so I need to get my kids' haircuts, maybe myself. We'll see.
Whoa, just your kids, huh? You know, buy 6, get
You
1.
sound like my mother. I'll get a haircut soon.
You hear that, like, it's good. You know what? It's whatever your wife likes.
Oh, there you go.
She liked the long hair.
She told me to get a haircut.
Who is she? Your mother? Your wife tells you you got no other
That's it.
choice.
She's like, today's a good haircut day. I'm like,
Marital advice from me.
the boys came back from Florida. Oh, it's very tense. It's very intense. It's super intense. So the way it works is this yeshiva, the Chicago yeshiva, is so competitive. They have 50 spots and there's like hundreds of kids that want to go. So the way it works like that, if you don't have one of the inns, they don't even give you an application. So what's the inn? The inn is either you live in Chicago or like Wisconsin, like that area. So then you're local. Or the next inn is if you have a sibling that attends or a sibling that used to attend. Okay, so check for us. Right?
Legacy Mission.
It's like, huh?
Legacy Mission.
Legacy. Oh, is it called Legacy? Oh, I don't know. Yeah. So basically, Nussin, our oldest, he went to Chicago for 3 years. Mendel is now in the 2nd year, so he'll be there year 3 next year. Who's God?
And now they all have the book.
So you would think we were able to get the pre-admission form. There's like yeah. It's a whole thing. We didn't even do the admissions form. There's the pre-admission form, but you only get the pre-admission form if you have one of those hooks. So they say they have like a list of criteria to even get it. And then they have the last category is, up to our discretion. I'm assuming that has to do with money, but whatever. I'm just saying. No, but and there's ways to, there's always ways to get a spot. But hopefully I mean, we're hoping that he is able to get
Are you
in.
looking into what's next? Is there like?
Well, there's been talks about ultimately opening up something here, but it's not gonna happen for next year.
So like, I guess for the
A high
infrastructure, is there even like an option, like if they wanted to be closer to Atlanta?
So there are yeshivot around, but it's kind of like, you know your kids and you want like a good fit for your kids. So this one, we know for our other kids has been a very good experience for them. So, that's not to say that another wouldn't be a good experience, but this is what we know. And so we're aiming for this. But there has been talk about creating it's called Masifta. It's like a high school Masifta, Chabad Masifta here, for the local kids and also for out of town kids that want to come in. There's plenty of potential students, but it's not happening this year. I mean, the next year. So we'll see.
There's going to be like a southeast hub.
Right. Well, there's one in Florida. There's one in Miami, Coral Springs. At some point. At some point.
Depends when it's the right time.
And when I say
Yeah.
southeast,
And also girls' high school, same thing. It's gonna happen. There's even discussion about it happening next year. Because there's like a bunch of girls and the parents don't necessarily want to send them away to New York. They're ninth grade. The kids are young. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Who sends their kids away at such a young age? Oh, no, but I mean, like, it's like,
Just like the king.
yeah, right. The king. You have to, if you want to enjoy Atlanta, you have to, right? If you want to enjoy Atlanta, you have to know what the snow is like first.
Yeah.
Go to Chicago. Mendel tells me, first of all, he called us a few months ago. He's like, I need boots. We're like, what happened to your old boots? I don't know. You grew out of them, whatever. So now we're trying to get boots to Chicago. Okay, so Amazon is great, but Amazon is like 2 days. We live in a world where who has 2 days?
Mhm.
Like, I don't have that time. I don't have that kind of time. It's snowing. My kids' feet are freezing. Right? It's getting wet. And so I went to Instacart. I found like a sporting goods store that was local. And now I'm like looking through boots. Anyway, I don't know why I'm saying this, but anyway, we got them. Oh, because of snow. Yeah, whatever. And it worked out.
So when I first-
Happy ending. Oh, last night he's like, oh, the boots are great. I'm like, amazing.
So I grew up in Florida, I moved here.
Yes.
So when I first.
So
moved
you've
here,
been used to like warm weather.
But I had no winter clothing. I had to go
Mm.
buy winter jackets. I didn't own a single like article of winter clothing when I first moved here.
Funny that you mentioned that because Nussin, my oldest son, who's in LA in yeshiva, that finished Chicago and is in Los Angeles in his second year. So he is flying tomorrow to New York for the 10th day of Shvat, the big anniversary of the Rebbe's leadership thing. So he's going to New York and he's like, I don't have a coat. He left his winter coat in Chicago. Actually, he left one winter coat there and then he had another coat that he left in LA between year 1 and 2. And like it wasn't there when he got back. It like disappeared. So now he's like without a coat. So we're trying to arrange, again, long distance, arrange a coat. Yes. Great to see you guys. Great to see you. Great to see you guys. Merle, great to see you. Joy, Fran, Mariana, Sarah, always great to see you. All right. Have a great week.
Thanks, Rabbi. Thank you.
Pleasure. We'll see you guys soon.
Thank you. Beautiful class. Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy. Take care. Bye.